Good morning, everybody. This is Mark Fowler. I'm president of Stowe Management Corporation and the CEO of a training company called Revolutionary Conversations. This is our second episode in our Always Creating Value podcast program. As many of you may know, I'm a business reengineering, crisis management, turnaround type of individual who helps companies in challenge. I'm also a CPA, but I'm an inactive CPA, which means I'm a licensed CPA, but I don't practice public accounting, although I do work with a lot of CPA firms. The goal today is to focus on the value creation as it relates to a good friend of mine, Mike Amerio. Mike and I have worked together in several situations. And as part of our Always Creating Value, we're trying to reach out to people who we know, people we would like to know, people that we understand are always focused on the value proposition of their companies, the value proposition of their clients, whether it's an attorney or a CPA, an engineer. We're looking for people who want to step forward and really clarify how they view value and how they view value creation, not just from a one-time situation, but on a continuous basis. Because as a business grows, it's got to be continuously adding value in ways that the clients or the customers understand, as well as the employees, the staff members, the stakeholders are also aware of how value creation leads to a better life for them, a better life for everybody. I'd like to introduce Mike Amerio. Mike is the managing partner of Lucas, Horsfall, Murphy and Pindroh. We've known each other for about 15 years. His firm is a very well-known firm, in particular in Pasadena and the Inland Empire. And now, since his firm has grown over the last 10 or 12 years, I think he's got 5 offices now, or four offices. And we've worked together, and I've begun to appreciate all the things Mike has been doing in his firm. I've introduced 4 or 5 opportunities, and we've worked on those 4 or 5 opportunities together. Because his value of what he looks at from a human capital perspective, a value creation perspective, and how he treats the firms that he merges in. Mike, would you like to take a moment or so and introduce yourself and talk about your firm, and then we'll start drilling down a little bit on what you know and what people would need to know.
Sure. Well, thanks, Mark. Yeah, as Mark mentioned, our firm is Lucas Horsfall, and our main office is in Pasadena, and we do have satellite offices, several satellite offices in Orange County and down in the Valley in Encino. Right now our head count is, we're over in excess of 100 people. And, to just play off of people, well, how did you get to where you are today versus where you were? And I think you touched on it, Mark. Really focus on people. We have to be able to provide the service that clients are going to want, and we do that with the right people. So focus on human capital is a big part of what we do, in addition to our efforts in marketing.
Well, Mike, as I mentioned, we've known each other for a long time, and you've helped me in a great deal in several unique merger acquisition situations, and you've more than proved your worth and your firm's worth, that's for sure. But one of the things I'd like to start out to talk about is something current. Everybody, all businesses, all individuals, have struggled with the COVID issue, and CPA firms were no different. And one of the things that impressed me dramatically was the work you did to reach out to clients, reach out to associate organizations, to, almost immediately when it became clear that COVID was impacting the world, you were right out there letting your clients know that you were there, and you were there in a new way. You want to highlight, elaborate on that?
I think, thanks, Mark, for that. Well, one of the areas that we had invested it significantly in, when you start investing dollars that you hadn't spent in the past, it could be a challenge, it could be scary. But we did invest in our abilities to work remotely as we were heading in that direction pre-COVID. So, thankfully, when we were ready, when COVID hit, so we didn't have to worry about work product. Our folks, our people, for the most part, well, not for the most part, they were able to, when we were told, they were able to go home and work, and many are still there working. So we didn't have to scramble and invest in technology and invest in systems when it happened. That had already happened. That investment had happened. After that, though, one of the things we quickly realized was our clients, our prospective clients, and just businesses and individuals needed help, and especially as the government started coming out with various programs. So in particular, one of the things we jumped on quickly, and we're probably one of the leaders in it, was educating people regarding the payroll protection program, the acronyms PPP, as well as a few other similar programs. So we started putting on a series of podcasts, similar to almost like what we're doing now. And, it was a learning curve at first. And, initially by the second or third podcast, we had exceeded our licensing. So, we started with the hope of, maybe educating 10, 20 people through this way. And as it turned out, by the end of our series of podcasts, we were close to 500. And that was really almost just through very little marketing, just email distributions to people that, our clients, prospective clients. And I'm still amazed on the feedback that I got from not only our clients, but people that maybe will never become our clients, but just somehow got word of it and appreciated at the time the education of how to handle, how to deal, what is PPP, how to access it, how to report it. So it was really, I've never been one to, brag or boast or talk about ourselves, but, pretty proud of what we did in that situation. Yeah.
You invited me to come in, and I also invited many of my clients to join as well, because not only did I'm always speaking about value creation, and this was a really good example of it, but it also gave them an idea. A lot of people, even in the profession, had not been able to catch up, and you guys were, way ahead of the curve in beginning to understand and beginning to work with it, even though it might not have been perfect, and nothing was perfect in COVID, that's for sure. But you were able to reach out and take the risk to present things that needed to get, move things down the path. One of the other things that was interesting, and when we talk about creating value, you look back at the times, not that people are hitting home runs, but oftentimes the fact that if they're in a critical situation and how they act in a critical situation. And if I remember correctly, what was it? 3 months before COVID, you moved into a brand new facility, and you had dotted your I's and crossed your T's and interviewed your people and interviewed your clients, and you had put together a really nice operation, and all of a sudden you're going remote. Anything you want to talk about with that?
Well, probably 1 month before, but who's counting? 1 month or 3 months? Yeah, it's moving. So we moved our corporate, our headquarters, just down the block to 2 buildings down. But to make such a move, when I think we probably have seating for 80 people in Pasadena. So to make such a move, it's something that you just don't do it. It was 2 years in the making, and 2 years of planning, and then when it happens, things come up. Where do certain people sit, and at the time, getting movers and getting technology changed over, phone lines. And so we were able to get all that done. And you know what that creates? Creates some angst, creates some tension, some nervousness, nervous energy. It's a big thing for many of us. We had the same parking spot and we've had the same office for 25 years in our previous location. So, you know, we made the change. We finally started to get settled, and you know, like the rest of the world, COVID hit. And we had to, you know, well, we didn't really have to make a decision. We were told that people needed to, you know, work remotely. So, you know, here we are, year and a half, almost 2 years, really, pretty quickly. And we really haven't had a full office yet, with still many people working remotely. But you know, you have to, things happen, and you have to be ready to adapt and be mobile. And you know, we were fortunate with, I feel so proud and fortunate with the employees that, you know, of Lucas Horsfall, that we were able to make that change. And we're, I think,
well, you must have
stronger than ever.
You must have a great team. That, you know, you obviously have a great team, but you obviously have a great connection with that team, that they were able to. I mean, I can't imagine the enthusiasm of a new office. I mean, I've done that myself several times, but here everybody gets excited about, you know, this new move, and then all of a sudden they're changing. Not only where they're moving, but all of a sudden they're changing course to go back home and not, you know, take advantage of all the new things and bells and whistles that you had put into that new place. That shows a lot about how you guys are cohesive. I was looking for that word, cohesive.
Yeah.
How do you go about getting that cohesion?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it starts with, I think it starts with you know, when we interview people, just making sure they understand what we do in public accounting. I always say is different than what other industries do. I'm not saying it's better, but I believe it to be different. Much more, your day is multitasking all day. For many of us, we don't have, and again, I don't say this is positive or negative, but we don't have the ability to just necessarily work on one client, one project all day. Our day just goes, you know, up and down with just various clients and various tasks, some planned, some unplanned. So finding that type of, making sure that you're identifying that skill set in people initially goes a long way. And then after that, you know, just creating a vision and doing the best you can to show people where you want to be, show people the path that you've traveled to get to where you are, and then to be able to take that next step and get buy-in, get engagement, and then, you know, share that with people as we take that journey to where we want to go.
You know, cohesion and sort of in many ways, you know, shoulder to shoulder. Do the team members, how do they acknowledge that or reinforce that, or, you know, how is it, you know, blended throughout the organization? I mean, you're a big firm, you know, the average CPA firm you're above the average size CPA firm in the United States. It's a different platform. And with that comes a lot of break off. People create their own little silos. You know, the profession is sort of known for creating silos. How do you go about helping others understand how that cohesion is important and continuous, consistent? I mean, does it come from you, or does it come from all the partners? Does it come from the bottom up? How would they see it and acknowledge it?
Yeah. So if I understand the question, I think I'm fortunate where one of the things that many of us in the firm, is my partners and a lot of our senior people have all been with the firm for a long time. Which is unique in today's world. Many of us have only had a job, a singular job. And and I say this to people as new associates join our firm. I think we've done pretty well. I think we have a really great work environment. I think we provide challenges for continued growth. But then I also tell them, I don't really know much else, because I've been here for over 30 years, and I haven't had the opportunity or not to see other areas. And so I'm kind of tunnel visioned, but the reality is I'm not alone here. If you go down my partners, and whether it's some of our administrative support or our professional staff, there's probably you need at least two hands to count the number of people that we have that have been here close to 30 years or beyond 30 years. So for a firm like ours, that's pretty good. So just that in itself, I think, tells a lot of people's buy-in to us, to their commitment to not just to the firm, but to our clients. And that's really what it's about. People really get vested and share the success of our clients' success. And I think that culture is readily apparent when you work with anybody in the firm.
Well, you mentioned, I was going to ask you about the fact that you hadn't worked for another CPA firm, and oftentimes, when we're coaching CPAs, we talk about the fact that they ought to move around a little bit and get a little feel of culture. But you've been able to excel, from maybe it was the partners from before, previous partners. Maybe it was the philosophy that came in that gave you the opportunity to create value in a way that's unique. So maybe not working for other firms has really paid off for you, in a way that is very unique, and like you said, gives you another perspective.
I think one of the things we really try to instill is entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, our clients have that, and we try to have everybody in the organization have that same mentality. Whether that applies to whether they're working on the firm, in the business, but maybe more importantly, working with our clients, and share that same thought process. Try to think like them. And it's been, our firm is in its second generation, third generation of leadership, ownership, and that happens through growth. So, that's also really important. As our firm has grown over the last 20, 30 years, certainly that provides more opportunity, that provides more excitement, more challenges. So then as people join our firm, it's not just, oh, now I'm part of this firm that's growing. I think there is something probably to that, but they also see the challenges and the opportunities of working with, maybe, I don't know, bigger is the right word, but more complex, more challenging, and then they see their own internal growth also.
So when they step on the people mover that you have going there, they've already aware of the fact that they're joining a firm that understands that they bring value to the situation, because I would imagine that's an expectation of yours, that maybe they're not fully educated or whatever, but their potential to be able to move forward in that entrepreneurial way is one of the selection processes, piece of the criteria for hiring people and keeping people.
Yeah. It's hard to identify. it's hard to express, but certainly that's a big component. The other component is people's willingness, and we've been really fortunate in this area, people's willingness to invest in themselves and in their own growth. One of the, we made a decision, maybe it's probably 10 years now, maybe a little less, that our firm was a lot smaller then, and resources were less then, but we made a decision that we felt that we felt it was important to move up in management within our tax department, that people go through and complete a master's of business taxation. That's when you're working and, working the hours that we do in public accounting, and to take on that endeavor, that's not easy, and it's not inexpensive. So we made that commitment to our staff that we were going to invest, we were going to pay for that. There's some restrictions, but we were going to pay for that. And looking back now, or looking today and looking where we were 10 years ago, certainly it's been a financial investment in us, in our people, and but it's probably one of the more thoughtful and strategic decisions that we made. It's that decision has enabled us to take on clients that the biggest firms in the world are doing, and we couldn't have done that 10, 15 years ago because we didn't have the horsepower. And that investment in education has provided us with that opportunity. And thankful to my partners to make that financial investment. Probably more thankful for everybody in the firm, in our tax department, that has made that personal commitment, because that's not easy. That's a lot of hours that you have to invest, and it's not just hours, because you still have a full-time job and a family and everything else that you have in life. So.
You and I have talked about that a lot. And one of the things, if I remember correctly, is that it's not mandatory. It's they make the decision to invest as long as you invest. Is that, have I ever got that right?
Well, they have to. We're making a financial investment, but they're making. It's their time, and they're giving of their time, and whether that's a night or two attending class, plus plus the homework, and as we all know from our days, attending class is a very small part of education. It's what you do after that. So it's a huge investment that they make. Yeah.
I was thinking when you were talking about having grown up in the firm and being the only firm, and it's great that you're able to look around over the 30 plus years or whatever it is, and look around and be able to still look around at your accomplishments. What one or two things that out of the hundreds of things you've accomplished that you're most proud of?
I'm a couple things. One, I look back and I think it's really cool that our firm is able to employ the number of people that we do and provide a pretty good lifestyle for them and for their families. I'm kind of proud of that. And not just I, but our partners, and in that platform that we've been able to provide. In terms of what we've done professionally, I guess the area that to me is most exciting, where I look at where we were and where we are, is the complexity of the client, the size of the client that we're working with. We made some investments in understanding international taxation, so we now work with many big clients that manufacture product in other countries. We work with clients that now operate in multi-states. We've significantly expanded the industries that we operate in. Right now, 2, 3, 4 years ago, we probably worked with, we didn't have any clients in the packing industry. And today we have, multiple big ones, names that you would recognize, and that continues to grow. And I could talk about some other stories of some other industries where we've kind of developed expertise and are now considered industry leaders. One of the things I always tell people, I always say is, I view us, I guess I view us as an industry leader. So I want to work with industry. I want to work with the leaders in every industry that we work in, because I think that's our peer.
What do you, which means a lot of, I would imagine a lot of clients had to look at you from a different perspective. Maybe they would be looking at the larger CPA firms for some of the things that they may traditionally have thought their value proposition would be from a public accounting firm.
Yeah.
What do you think they saw in you in order to make those kinds of decisions?
Well, that's actually that's a great question. And one of the other things that we did, I don't know, 7-8 years ago now, maybe longer, is we made an investment in a marketing, and that investment took on a lot of firms our size, some bigger, some smaller, certainly have a marketing staff, but very few, if any, have somebody that is actually not more than just developing marketing programs, but isn't afraid to pick up the phone, isn't afraid to knock on a door and really do old school marketing. And that investment we made, in particular, was of a marketing person that came to us from who had spent many years calling on the same clients we want to call on, with several large banks in Los Angeles. What that did was that laid the foundation to allow us to start to get into some really larger companies. And once we, got a break or two, it became apparent to us, and it became apparent to the clients that, we knew what we were doing, and we were hands-on, and we were going to, go beyond, sending out somebody to do an audit or send out somebody to do a tax return. We were going to be part of their team and be strategic. And jumping ahead today, I feel like, and I say this, when we're given the opportunity to go out and propose on, a larger manufacturing company, a larger construction company, or something to that extent, and our competition might be, one of the bigger national firms, one of the bigger names, I think we're going to win that job, and we're not going to necessarily win it price, but it's going to be that I think we're going to be able to sit around the table and explain to them what we could do, what we've done to clients, similar to them, and how we've helped them change their business. And that's hopefully I think that's the culture that starts with my partners, who are very passionate, very, very passionate about what they do. And, that I think that works its way through our firm, to various levels.
Well, you've been very kind to help me a couple times. I interviewed you in 8 or 9 or other CPA firms for an article I did on in Cal CPA magazine, but you've also been on a panel several times with us. I'm the chair of the Cal CPA MAP committee in Los Angeles. And in September, we had another panel, but it was smaller firms this time, solos or maybe 2 partner firms. And one of the interesting things that came through that was what these guys did as smaller firms to be nimble. They made changes in their structure, their changes in their ability to look at clients, get rid of let some clients go that they needed to let go, and change it appears that you've, even as a larger firm, you've kept a lot of that nimbleness that you might have had when you were a smaller practice. Can you speak to that as well?
Yeah, I think that's fair. I hope we have, I guess, but being able to adapt and it wasn't that long ago that, we didn't know what Teams was. And we didn't know how to, use Zoom. And we didn't know how to use all kinds of different technology. So to me, just to be able to keep an open mind, 2 years ago, if you would have said we would have 70% of our workforce working remotely, I mean, I would have went, would have, there's no way that would have worked. I mean, you mentioned moving our new office. One of the things, I mean, it was just moving our new office. We were very focused on. We wanted to modernize it, and we wanted to have smaller offices and more open space for the cubicle areas, I guess. But we still had to be careful. I mean, we were nervous about, well, what would the change bring? What would a smaller office bring? And what would more open space and less private areas bring? And then all of a sudden, here we are. And not only that, none of that really matters right now, because we're all, we're working remote, and being able to adapt to that and being able to accept that, people working from home are going to have some distractions, and they're probably not going to be available from 9 to 5 straight like they would be in the office. And, arguably, it's probably a lot easier if we're all together in one space working 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or whatever the hours are. But that's not the case now. They're home, and they, especially during the summer and last year when children were not at school, I mean, they had to take their children, they had to help their children through technology. So not only were they working remotely, but a lot of them were working different hours than, say, I was working, or I had been accustomed to working. And just being able to step back and accept that, and be able to make personal sacrifice and personal change. It's not just, everybody else. We all had to be able to accept change and figure it out. So, and we did. And that's something that I think we're all proud of how we handled the change.
So you've not lost that. Nimbleness is the only word I can put my finger on, but because that's, that came so clear in, the last MAP meeting. But I guess it's a good reflection of the entrepreneurial aspect, because, entrepreneurs are always about change. They're always about making another, what's next, which sounds like you're a big part of that. And you're saying that the partners are also in the what's next perspective as well. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, we have to be. We have to now. Well, as we all know, look what happened. I mean, going back over the last year, it seemed like once a month, okay, next month, this big Apple, Amazon, they're going to bring people back. And then that gets put off. And so, I mean, it became very apparent to all of us that this is a brand new world. And for us to be set in our ways was business. It was going to lead to business failure. So, we just had to accept the conditions of the day and make the most of it. And I think that continues today. 6 months from now, we don't know what's going to happen. But, we know that we have a lot of clients that we serve, and there's a lot more out there that we can serve. And we just need to be able to accommodate the conditions and make the most of it as we go. And I feel fortunate that my partners kept an open mind through it all, and we're open to change. And we're not. I've heard some of my friends that have firms. I had to bring everybody back. We couldn't get the work done, and all this, very, very old school. And if I would have had that pressure coming from my partners, it would have been very challenging. So I feel very fortunate. They had an open mind, and we kind of, like any partnership, you're not always thinking the same, but in terms of being able to deal with the times and keep an open mind and do what's best for not only the firm, but for our employees. We were all on the same page.
Right. All your stakeholders, even your clients, needed that.
Yeah.
That same.
Yeah.
We know it's kind of interesting. We, in the interviews that I did with you and the other firms, one of the big things was always people. And in the 2020 tax return window, tax season window, was kind of universal in many firms that people pulled together and got used to remote and worked really hard to come up with different things to do. And there was a great focus on paying attention to which employees, which team members were rising to that particular occasion. And I think a lot of people were very successful at it. And then all of a sudden, 2021 came along, and not only for CPA firms, but for companies all over. And that is, where are the people? Where can we get more people? Where can we get more qualified people that want to stay? There was a lot of, for whatever happened, a disillusionment in their careers. Again, not just in public accounting, but kind of overall. How have you been able to navigate around that or through it?
I'm this is an approximate number, but I want to say in the last year, we've probably have hired 16 to 18 new employees. So with pretty huge, big effort on our part. So some of it was made by our, I think we have a pretty good reputation. Lucas Horsfall is known. It's known to have good clients. It's known to have a good infrastructure. It's known to invest in education. So, we have a little bit of advantage there. We're probably the leading firm in the San Gabriel Valley, maybe in terms of size or reputation, or one of the leading firms. So I think we have that going for us, especially for somebody that lives in that geographic area. And then, probably another big decision we made was, it's all part of growing and laying a foundation for the next step in a business cycle. But, we brought on a firm recruiter that recruits exclusively for us. And those are always hard decisions because there's a lot of recruiters in Los Angeles, and they probably don't like that. But we felt that was an investment we needed to make. We needed to have somebody full time that was had our interests, and it's probably without doing that, we probably would not have been able to hire the number of people that we've hired. Accountants are scarce. It's human capital is very, very challenging. And we never lose sight of marketing and growth and replacing business. The forefront of my mind every day is human capital. And what are we going to do to make sure we protect our human capital as well as grow it?
Well, talk about value creation. Like you said, having someone who speaks for you. And, from what you're saying today, and, I've heard from you before, you obviously have a unique environment. It isn't very easy maybe for recruiters to do that, so maybe that was quite an interesting and successful step to say, listen, we've got to get our message out in a way that speaks to exactly what we want it to be, as opposed to relying on someone who may not understand it or feel it is in the same way that we'd like it to be, presented.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we have a neat story to tell. I think that story maybe starts with what we've, talked about in the past, was just walk our halls and look at the people that have spent a good portion, if not the majority of their careers with the firm. And, I think that probably provides, I hope it does anyway, provides prospective employees with a sense of confidence and security. And, it's nice to know that, you're going to be able to kind of hang your hat somewhere for a long time. And that's something we strive to do. Yeah.
Well, something comes to me about we talked about, being prepared. You weren't thinking about COVID coming around. You were thinking about your technology and reaching out, and here you are with the people, the whole world having people issues. But you were kind of ahead of the curve on both of those situations, or those two actions, or primary action sets, as I would call them, things that are essential to the long-term value of your business. How did you go about making all of that happen? A lot of times we joke about accountants about, being historical. And in some ways it sounds like you're more proactive than you are historical. How do you go about doing that?
Well, I think accountants are historical, so your assessment's correct. I think we had started the process pre-COVID of, over a period of time of technology investment and people advancement, growing our client base, adding clients that were more larger, more complex to work with, more diversifying the industries in which our clients worked with. So I think the train was moving, and when all this happened, when the world, so to speak, kind of shut down, we became flexible. And I think people were assured that we weren't going to be maybe like some firms and rush people back to the office. We were their safety and their family safety was important to us, and we, maybe we could have done more, but we certainly did the best we could to provide that flexibility, to allow people to work from home. And by doing all of that, I think people kind of maybe changed the way they worked, changed the hours they worked, but it didn't change our goal. And they continued to buy into, let's keep that train going, and let's continue to add some, really exciting clients, and continue to provide a more a fun work-life experience. And looking back pre-COVID to where we are today, that's, it's happened. I hope it continues, but where we were 2 years ago to where we are today, our firm is better. Our firm is bigger, and it's really not anything that my partners did. I did. It's really, we were fortunate with our human capital, and we were fortunate to retain our people, and we were fortunate that they continued to kind of sell out and really do what they could do.
Talking about your team members, what would, and maybe you already know, maybe you know this, but I'm not expecting you to guess this, but what would you think, or what do you know that they would say about the firm to others? And in particular, what's the most valuable thing that they would say about working with you, with your firm?
What I hope they would say is that our firm has provided them an opportunity to grow as a CPA, has provided them, to the best of our ability, a work-life balance, which is a challenge because we work a lot of hours and deadlines come up. Some we can control, some we cannot control. And just by the growth of our firm, the deadlines that we can control and that we know about becomes more cumbersome to handle. So to the extent that we could provide a work-life balance, I think it means a lot to people. And so I'm hoping those are the things that our investment in technology, our investment in their professional development and our investment in their work-life balance has made our firm, a destination to work for.
Well, yeah, it's one of the big things that people talk about. And, from an industry or a professional perspective, it's the human capital issue or quality employee issue and the succession planning issues are both the two things that CPA firms talk about, because business has been better for many firms, even in COVID, because there were so many different things to do. Like you mentioned, PPP and disaster loans and the issues that have happened with the IRS and the federal franchise tax board. They are overwhelmed, and it impacts the clients and also the CPAs.
Yeah. Well, one of the, actually, you raised something about succession plan, and that's one of the, I do the best I can, and my partners do too, to share the opportunity, not just the vision. But as I've said, several of my partners and I, we started with our firm, and now we're in leadership, but we're not going to be here forever. And I mean, I tell this all the time, whenever I can, because I love talking about it. There's such immense opportunity to start with our firm and think in 5 and 10 years when my partners start retiring, then, they're going to now have this incredible opportunity to take our firm, to a level way beyond we are today. I think if you asked some of the, go back 30 years and ask some of the people that were with the firm then, do you think Lucas Horsfall would be where it is today? There's no way. And, but here we are. And I think the opportunity, down the road in the next 10 years or the next 20 years is going to be even bigger and even better. So I like to share that story because I want people to really see the future is not just our growth today or making money today. It's where we're going to be in the marketplace, over the next decade.
Well, I go back to that people mover example. I mentioned that a lot of times when people come into a position, it looks like that's where they're going to be. They have a spot. They have this is their workplace. This is what they're going to take care of. And I get the view that with you is when they step in your office, they're moving forward already. And I think you confirmed it with the fact that not only is there a lot of different quality work and training, but also the fact that there's a place for them down that alley or down the end of that people mover.
Yeah. I think there's been a lot of consolidation in the accounting industry. Many of the firms that used to be in Pasadena now go by different names. And those firms have names that originated from the East Coast or from Minnesota and they're very quality firms, but they're not the firm that was here 10, 20 years ago. And that's not just Pasadena, but that's probably throughout Southern California and maybe throughout the country. And that's something we're proud of, and that's something that independence and that who we are is and where we're going through independence is something we like to talk a lot about.
Well, this is a question that you and I have probably had between each other, in the work that we've done between each other, and that is, how do you think you're going to be able to maintain this? And I don't want to use the word family. It'd be very easy to say you're a family-like business, but you're more of a community-like business. And how are you going to maintain that? I mean, you are getting bigger, and a lot of other firms around you are getting bigger, and you do, from what you've discussed, you've got a unique approach to your stakeholders. How are you going to go about doing that? Are you the kingpin in that? Are you the big voice, or is it everybody?
I don't think I think I'm a part of it, as I think everybody else in the firm's a part of it. So I think that the work environment that we have, it's kind of a cliche, but it's something I've always believed in: work hard, play hard. And I, I I think that permeates the organization, not just me, not just my partners, our managers, our directors, but it goes throughout. So how do you continue that? I'm not as worried about that. I think because there's so many of us that kind of share that same philosophy, that I think as we continue to grow within the last couple months, we're merging a couple firms into ours, long-standing successful firms, maybe not the biggest firms, but they're bringing clients that recognizable names that you would know. And I think the people that will come with those that are coming with those firms, or it's not going to be like, oh, well, Mike and Amerio this, and then somebody else this. I mean, I think because we're all kind of, rowing, I think, in the right direction, I think it's going to be easy for them just to jump in and start rowing with us. So your answer is, how do you keep feeding this bigger animal every day? I don't, to the extent that we could keep attracting and finding the people, I think once they join our organization, I think to just jump in and continue to row with us.
Well, I think what I hear you saying is that you keep moving forward. And one of the successes one of the components of success in all the re-engineering work we've done revolves on momentum. And what I'm hearing you say is one of the big value creation parts to your success is that you keep that momentum. You've got from what I understand, you've got you recruit and have young students working with you. I think about 5 or 6 or 7 new students working tax seasons with you. And
yeah, one of the interesting things we did, I mean, other firms do it too, but is we started as we kind of started on an upward trajectory, we felt we needed to start using interns more. So we bring in an intern class every year, and through that we provide an opportunity to give back a little bit to the profession, because they're learning a lot. They're not just doing for lack of a better word, administrative work. We invest some financial resources, we invest time to train them, and they're working, and they work throughout a busy season. And some we then keep on for permanent, become permanent employees, and many of those people are still with us, and some are now directors of our firm, managers of our firm. And so in terms of that firm culture and all the things that we've kind of talked a little bit about, some of the entertainment that we provide, and the other education, the technology investments, they see that early on. They see that while they're either in college or right out of college, and it's been a big thing for us. I've heard from some other firms, good firms, by the way, where they're kind of going away from the internships and taking some of that work offshore, so to speak, and having it done overseas. And I don't see it. There's reasons why they're doing it, and I kind of understand what they're saying, but I think there's a little bit of learning curve every year by using interns. But I think getting them in and getting them buying into who we are and providing that opportunity to then someday have them become our next layer of management is more important than maybe some cost efficiencies in other areas that could be achieved by taking some work offshore.
so when a young, potential employee meets your firm, particularly in the intern situation, they're already moving forward. They're already growing. So, which reinforces the concept that we're trying to impress upon here, is that you're always creating value. You create value in all different kinds of ways, but you're always doing it. You got all those circles going around, those little actions, making sure that it stays afloat.
Yeah.
More than afloat, thrive and grind, thrive. We're coming up a little bit to the end, and I was wondering if there's, something you'd like to say that I didn't ask you about. I mean, I have a ton more questions to address with you, but is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, appreciate the opportunity, and I'm just our firm has been around for over 70 years, and I think we've laid the foundation with our reputation in the business community, with our reputation with our employees, where I see us remaining a vibrant, growing, independent firm, for many years to come, way beyond my time. So.
Well, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it. I appreciate all that you've done for clients of mine, and all the things you've stepped forward for the Cal CPA with me. Maybe we'll have you back. I do have a ton of questions to ask you.
Always happy.
I think Ann and James might have some things to ask you before we leave. Ann, you want to?
Oh, well, one of the things that I was questioning or wondering about for you, Mike, is with cybersecurity, when you have people working remotely, has that been a challenge?
The challenge, scary times, without question. We're actually engaging several organizations to do that, push testing and challenge our organization and see how they could get in and do different things, because that's a big thing. I don't want to take up too much time, but when we got cyber insurance, when all this became a thing several years ago, they were asking, well, how many, obviously our big concern is social security numbers. And well, Mike, how many social security numbers do you have in your system? And I said, well, I don't know. We have maybe 5,000 clients, so 5,000. And then we walk through the process, though. It's not just 5,000 clients. We deal with partnerships, we deal with S corporations, and some partnerships have over 100 partners. Some S corp, some of these other flow through entities have over 100 shareholders. So you start doing the math, and what I thought was 5,000 social security numbers becomes, well in excess of, hundreds of thousands just through multiples of math. We audit employee benefit plans, and those have 500, 1,000 employees. So it's a huge area, and it's an area big focus. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Because you often hear that, how did they get in? Well, through someone's email.
All kinds of things, and you have people using their phones, people are using their watches. People are using their laptops, tablets. They're using it at clients. They're using it at home. They're using it here in one of our offices. So it's a big area, and it's becoming bigger and bigger. And yeah.
Thanks.
A lot of what we're saying, Mike, relates to the development of culture. And as you know, that in my business, I'm even in the work that we've done together, it's been about creating some culture, allowing people to make transition. In all the things you've said today, culture has been woven in. What can you say more about how culture is integral to your firm?
It's so important with generation of employees who have so much opportunity, and they're in such demand that you gotta have a place. You have to have a place where they're going to enjoy walking. I mean, well, they don't necessarily walk in the door anymore, at least right now, but you have to have that opportunity where they, getting up in the morning and look for, or at least enjoy coming into the office. Because if not, there's somebody calling them tomorrow. I could get you a job here. I get you a job there. Or so it's critical. Mission critical is doing the best you can to create that positive culture that's providing opportunity.
Thank you. This was very exceptional. Mike, thank you very much. This was, thanks for allowing me to, delve into a lot of different aspects of your firm, and hope to see you again. And for the audience, episode 3, we will have Damien English, who is the editor of Cal's CPA magazine, California Society of CPAs magazine, which reaches out to over 30,000 members and each month. And I've known Damien for a long time. He's published quite a few of my articles, and he's right on the edge of the future for the CPA profession.